Forced to become the wife of an older CEO, she revealed a secret that would turn her life upside down. Before we start the story, leave in the comments which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. You have 15 minutes to decide if you want to marry me. Sophia Reid choked on her own saliva. There was no water, no food, just air. And still, she choked. She coughed 3 times, patted her chest, raised a finger asking for a moment. The man in front of her didn't move a single facial muscle. He just waited, as if people choking on nothing was something that happened regularly in his office. "Sorry," Sophia finally managed to say, her voice coming out strangled. "Did you say marriage? Like, with a ring, white dress, 3-tier cake?" "I said marriage," Ethan Walker repeated, without changing a single note in his tone. "The cake is optional." Sophia blinked, then blinked again. Her brain was clearly trying to reboot, but someone had forgotten to pay the electric bill in there. 15 minutes. To decide on a marriage with a billionaire she had met exactly 90 seconds ago. She had taken 40 minutes to choose a nail polish color last week, and in the end, she left the store without buying anything. But let's go back a bit, because this absurd scene didn't come from nowhere. This story begins 3 hours earlier, on a sunny Tuesday in March in Los Angeles, when Sophia discovered that her life was about to crumble like a birthday cake left in the rain. 3 hours earlier, in downtown Los Angeles, in the office of the Reid family accountant, Sophia was sitting in a chair that creaked when she moved. The air conditioning made a sound like a dying cat. And the accountant, a bald gentleman named Mr. Hoffman, was looking at her with the expression of someone about to announce that Christmas had been canceled. "Miss Reid," he began, taking off his glasses and cleaning them on his sleeves. "It's never good news when they take off their glasses. Your father's company has exactly 6 days before total bankruptcy." Sophia was silent for 3 seconds. 6 days, she repeated, testing the words in her mouth. "Like 6 business days? Because then it would technically be 4, if we subtract the weekend, and maybe 6 calendar days, including the weekend, including a holiday, if there was one, including any miracle you might be planning to pull out of your pocket. What if I have a very small miracle? Like a pocket-sized miracle?" Mr. Hoffman stared at her over the glasses he had just put back on. "Miss Reid, the financial hole is $4 million. Unless your pocket miracle is a winning lottery ticket, I suggest you start accepting reality." Sophia opened her mouth to respond. Closed it. Opened it again. No sound came out. 20 minutes later, on the sidewalk of Wilshire Avenue, Sophia was walking aimlessly, her feet taking her nowhere in particular. The Los Angeles sun was shining as if nothing was happening. Cars were honking. People were passing by with their iced coffees and their seemingly under-control lives. And she was there, in the middle of the sidewalk, feeling like she had swallowed a running washing machine. "It's okay," she murmured to herself. "It's okay. Breathe, Sophia. This is just a little problem." A man in a suit walked around her. "A little $4 million problem," she continued, now gesturing. "No big deal. You've survived worse things, like that food poisoning in 2019. Like that class presentation where you called the professor by the wrong name for 7 minutes straight. A woman with a stroller crossed to the other sidewalk. You can solve this, Sophia said, stopping in front of a mirrored window and staring at her own reflection. You're smart. You're creative. You're talking to yourself in public again, aren't you? Her reflection confirmed that yes, she was. Great. Wonderful. That's just what was missing from the resume. Special skills, existential monologues on Los Angeles sidewalks. She took a deep breath and straightened up. Okay, universe, let's negotiate. I need a miracle. It doesn't have to be a big miracle. Just $4 million falling from the sky, or a rich uncle nobody knew about. Everyone has a secret rich uncle, right? Like in the movies? Why can't I have a secret rich uncle? The reflection remained silent. You're a terrible conversation partner, Sophia said to the glass. It was exactly at that moment that the phone rang. Sophia looked at the screen. Unknown number. Normally she would let it go to voicemail, but something, maybe desperation, maybe temporary madness, maybe the universe finally picking up the phone, made her accept the call. Hello? Miss Sophia Reid? The voice was female, professional, and sharp as a chef's knife. Depends. If it's a collection agency, I died last week. If it's a survey, I have no opinion on anything. If it's the universe calling to apologize, I'll accept flowers and chocolate. Silence on the other end. Miss Reed, Mr. Ethan Walker would like to meet with you in 40 minutes. On the top floor of Walker Tower Building in downtown Los Angeles. It's about a proposal that could solve your family's financial problems. Sophia froze in the middle of the sidewalk. Sorry, who am I speaking with? Margaret Chen, executive assistant to Mr. Walker. 40 minutes, Miss Reed. The car is already on its way. I suggest you make yourself presentable. The call ended. Sophia stood there, the phone still pressed to her ear, her mouth open like a fish that had just received shocking news. What? She said to no one. What? A pigeon landed near her, looked at her judgmentally, and flew away. Ethan Walker? Sophia repeated, now walking in circles. The Ethan Walker? The guy from the business magazines? The billionaire? The one with that face like he's never laughed in his life? She stopped, looked at her reflection in the window again. Either this is a miracle or someone's going to steal my kidneys. Either way, interesting. 38 minutes later at Walker Tower Building in downtown Los Angeles, the car that picked her up was black, silent, and probably cost more than the apartment where Sophia lived. The driver didn't say a word during the entire ride. Sophia tried to make conversation 3 times. On the 3rd try, he turned on the radio. Now she was in the most intimidating elevator on the planet. It was all mirrored. Silent. The kind of elevator that made you feel poor just by breathing inside it. Sophia could see her reflection from every possible angle, and none of them looked ready to meet a billionaire. Okay, she whispered to herself. You can do this. You're a confident woman. A businesswoman. A woman who... She tried to strike a power pose. Shoulders back. Chin up. Hands on hips. The result in the mirror looked like a chicken trying to pass itself off as an executive. No, not that, she murmured, changing position. She crossed her arms, looked too defensive. Let her arms drop. Looked lost. Put one hand in her pocket. Looked like she was searching for change. That's when she noticed the small camera in the upper corner of the elevator. Someone was watching. Someone had seen everything. Great, Sophia said to the camera, smiling with desperation. I hope that was entertaining for you all. The elevator made a soft ding sound. The doors opened, and Sophia forgot how to walk. The office occupied the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed all of Los Angeles as if the city were a carpet of lights arranged there specifically to impress visitors. The floor was marble, or something that looked like marble. It was probably marble imported from somewhere with an Italian name. And in the center of everything, standing against the window like a silhouette cut out of a very expensive corporate nightmare, was him, Ethan Walker, 40 years old. Dark hair with some silver strands at the temples, the kind of gray that looks intentional, as if he had paid someone to place them exactly there. A gray suit that fit his body, as if it had been sewn by angels with measuring tape. A jawline that looked capable of cutting glass. And eyes, gray eyes, cold. The kind that make you feel like a spreadsheet being analyzed. Miss Reed, he said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, as if she were a package he had ordered and he was checking if the contents matched the description. Yes, hi, hello, it's me, Sophia Reed, which is my name, which you already said, so you already know, and now I'm repeating it, which makes no sense. I'm gonna stop talking. She didn't stop. Nice office, very high, we're very high up. Are those cars or ants down there? Probably cars. Ants wouldn't have headlights, unless they were highly evolved ants, which would be concerning. Ethan Walker observed her in silence. He didn't interrupt, he didn't smile. He didn't show that he understood she was nervous. He just waited, with the patience of a very well-dressed stone. Sit down, he finally said. Sophia sat. Her legs practically thanked her for not having to support her anymore. I'll be direct, Ethan continued, walking to his desk without hurry. I don't like beating around the bush. I don't like small talk, and I don't like wasting time. Wow, what a surprise, Sophia murmured quietly. He heard. She knew he heard because one of his eyebrows moved 2 millimeters. It was probably the equivalent of a belly laugh coming from him. Your father's company is bankrupt, he said. $4 million in debt. 6 days until total collapse. Your family is going to lose everything. The house, the savings, the reputation. Each word was precise, surgical, as if he were reading a particularly uninteresting report. I know, Sophia said, her voice coming out smaller than she would have liked. I know all of that. And I have a solution. Sophia swallowed hard. What kind of solution? Ethan Walker stopped by the window. The late afternoon light cut his profile against the Los Angeles sky. If this were a movie, this would be the moment for dramatic music. Marriage. And that's when Sophia choked on her own saliva. We return to the present, to the choking moment, to the moment when Sophia's brain decided to take a vacation without notice. A contract marriage, Ethan continued, as if she hadn't almost died right there. Duration of 2 years. In exchange, I pay all your family's debts, save your father's company, and guarantee financial stability for everyone. Sophia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She began. This doesn't make people don't. 15 minutes. Ethan said, looking at his wristwatch that probably cost more than a car. You have 15 minutes to give me an answer. 15 minutes? Sophia stood up from the chair without realizing it. To decide on a marriage? 14 now. This is crazy. This is insanity. This is something from a bad movie, the kind that plays late at night and nobody watches. I don't watch movies, Ethan said. Of course you don't. Sophia threw her hands in the air. Why would you? You probably think fun is a made-up word. You probably read contracts before bed. Quarterly reports, actually. Sophia stopped, stared at him, tried to figure out if that was a joke. His face gave away nothing. Why me? She asked, her voice finally lowering. Of all the people in Los Angeles, of all the people in the world, why me? Ethan stared at her. Directly, without blinking. Because you need me, he said. And because I need a wife. For what? That's not part of the negotiation. Sophia let out a laugh that bordered on hysteria. Of course. Why would it be? Transparency is so early 2000s. She walked to the window. Los Angeles sparkled below, oblivious to the absurdity happening at the top of that building. Millions of people living their normal lives. Drinking coffee, watching TV shows, having ordinary Tuesdays. And she was there, receiving marriage proposals from a billionaire with the same emotion as someone ordering coffee without sugar. 8 minutes. Ethan's voice came from behind her. Sophia closed her eyes. She thought about her father, her mother, the house where she grew up, everything they were about to lose. And she started talking to herself, because that's what she did. Always. Okay, Sophia, think. Option 1. You say no and go back to your life that in 6 days won't exist anymore. Option 2. You say yes and marry a man who was probably raised in a robot factory with a defect in the emotions module. She turned and faced Ethan, who was watching her with the same expression as always. Absolutely none. Are you really offering me millions of dollars to marry you? Yes. And in return, you want… What exactly? A wife. For 2 years. Presence at events. Appearance of a functional marriage. Rules will be detailed in the contract. And after 2 years? Divorce. Clean, no complications. Sophia took a deep breath, looked at the city, looked at him, looked at her own reflection in the window glass. The girl in the reflection looked terrified, but she also looked like someone who had no choice. 3 minutes, Ethan said. Sophia closed her eyes. She thought of her mother crying in the kitchen. She thought of her father who hadn't slept in a week. She thought of all the times they had given things up to give her a better life. And she opened her eyes. Okay, she said. Her voice came out small but firm. All right. Ethan didn't smile. He didn't show relief. He didn't show anything. All right is a formal acceptance? Sophia let out a tired laugh. Yes. Is the most eloquent formal acceptance I can produce right now. Congratulations. You just bought a wife who talks to herself and chokes on air. Ethan nodded once. Dry. Definitive. The contract will be sent tomorrow. The wedding will be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? But he was already walking toward the door, as if the matter was closed, as if she hadn't just sold the next 2 years of her life in exchange for a financial rescue. At the door he stopped. Miss Reed, Sophia. She corrected. If we're getting married, I think you can use my first name. A silence. Sophia, he repeated. The word sounded strange in his voice, as if it didn't match the corporate accent. This is a business deal, not a romance. And he left. Sophia stood alone in the most expensive office in Los Angeles, looking at the city below. Nice to meet you too, she said to the empty air. I can't wait for our wedding full of love and affection. Her reflection in the window stared back at her. You just agreed to marry a robot, Sophia. A very rich robot, but still a robot. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass. At least he's handsome, she murmured. Not that it helps, but at least it's something. Down below, Los Angeles kept sparkling. Oblivious, indifferent. And Sophia Reed, standing on top of the world, had never felt so small. Sophia had a plan, a brilliant plan, a plan that didn't involve marrying a gray-eyed billionaire robot. The plan had a name, Derek. 2 days after the meeting at Walker Tower, she was standing in front of a cafe in the Silver Lake neighborhood, rehearsing the speech mentally. Derek was her ex-boyfriend. 3 years together. He had a tech startup that had worked out. He had money now. And more importantly, he had a history of saying he would do anything for her. "You can do this," Sophia murmured to her reflection in the cafe window. "Just ask for a loan. Temporary. Between friends, ex-friends, ex-boyfriends. People who have already seen you in flannel pajamas with pizza print." She took a deep breath and went in. Derek was sitting in the corner, working on a laptop that probably cost more than her rent. When he saw her, he smiled. The same smile as always. Charming, confident, slightly annoying. "Sophia?" He stood up to hug her. "It's been so long. You look the same." "Thanks." Sophia sat in the chair across from him. "You also look like you have more gel in your hair." Derek laughed as if it were a compliment. The next 10 minutes were dedicated to him, talking about the startup, the investors, the trip to the Maldives, the new apartment in Venice Beach. Sophia nodded at all the right moments while calculating how to introduce the subject. "Anyway," Derek finally said, leaning back in his chair. "You said you needed help with something?" Sophia swallowed hard. Yes, it's about my dad. His company is going through a difficult time, and..." She cleared her throat. "I need a loan, temporary. I'll pay it back, I promise." Derek tilted his head. "How much?" "4 million. The silence that followed was so dense that Sophia could feel the weight of it on her shoulders. $4 million, Derek repeated slowly. "Yes, I know it sounds like a lot, but Sophia..." He let out a short laugh. It wasn't a kind laugh. "You're joking, right?" "No." Derek leaned forward, the smile disappearing. "We broke up 2 years ago. You disappeared, didn't answer my messages, and now you show up asking for $4 million as if it were..." "What? Switching seats at the movies?" Sophia felt her face heat up. "Derek, my family's going to lose everything. I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't," he completed. "Yes, I noticed." He closed the laptop and stood up. "Look, Sophia, it was good to see you, really. But this..." He gestured between the two of them. "This isn't a charity." And he left. Sophia sat there, looking at the coffee she hadn't even ordered, with the feeling that someone had just used her heart as a punching bag. "Great," she murmured to the empty cup on the table beside her. "That was fun." 10 out of 10 for Derek. He always knew how to make a girl feel special. That's when she felt it. Someone watching. She slowly turned her head. And there he was. Across the street, standing next to an absurdly expensive black car, Ethan Walker. Arms crossed, face unreadable, watching as if she were a particularly interesting scientific experiment. Sophia got up and left the cafe, marching toward him with an energy she didn't know where it came from. "Are you following me?" "No," Ethan said calmly. "I have an office on this block, and you happen to see everything?" He raised an eyebrow. "Yes." Sophia wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to dig a hole in the pavement and bury herself alive. "This is humiliating," she said. "I know. You don't have to agree. Would you prefer that I lie?" Sophia opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer for that. Her phone rang. It was her father. She answered. "Dad." "Sweetheart." His voice was tired, defeated. "The bank called. They're going to foreclose. We have 3 days. Sophia closed her eyes. "Dad, I'm gonna fix this." "How, sweetheart? How are you going to..." "I'm gonna fix it," she repeated, and hung up. Ethan was still standing there, waiting, as if he knew exactly what she was going to say. "I accept," Sophia said. The words came out bitter. "The contract, the marriage, everything." Ethan nodded once. "The contract is in my office. We can sign now." 15 minutes later, Sophia was sitting in another absurdly expensive room with a 30-page document in front of her. "Is this a marriage contract or a master's thesis?" she asked, flipping through the pages. "Confidentiality clauses, division of assets, conduct expectations, public event schedules." Ethan listed, without emotion. All detailed. "Is there a clause about what happens if I die of boredom during a gala dinner?" Ethan didn't answer. He just extended a pen. Sophia took it. Her hand was shaking. She hated that her hand was shaking. "Okay," she said, talking to herself again. "It's just a signature. Just a signature that will define the next 2 years of your life. No pressure. No pressure at all." She looked at Ethan. "What if I regret it?" Page 23, termination clause, with penalties. "Of course there are penalties." Sophia let out a nervous laugh. "Why wouldn't there be penalties?" She looked at the document, at the dotted line waiting for her signature, at the rest of her life about to be decided by a pen that was too expensive. My mother is going to freak out, she murmured. She always wanted me to marry for love, not out of financial desperation with a guy who probably thinks honeymoon is an accounting term. The pen touched the paper, Sophia signed, and something inside her broke a little. Ethan took the document, checked the signature, and stored it in a folder. Congratulations, he said without a trace of irony. Now you are my fiancée. Wow, Sophia responded, her voice choked. How romantic. I always dreamed of this moment. A meeting room, flickering fluorescent lights, and a 30-page contract. It's exactly like the fairy tales. Ethan stared at her for a moment. Something passed through his eyes, something too quick to identify. This is a deal, he finally said. Not a romance. You already said that, and I'll keep saying it. He walked to the door. The wedding will be in 2 weeks. My assistant will contact you with the details. Sophia was left alone in the room, looking at her hands that had just signed away her freedom. Congratulations, Sophia, she whispered to herself. You officially sold your soul, at a discount. Her phone beeped. A message from an unknown number. Dress fitting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late. Sophia stared at the screen. Tomorrow. Dress. Wedding. And suddenly, everything became terribly real. The dress weighed 12 pounds. Sophia knew because she had asked 3 times, hoping the number would decrease. It didn't. 2 weeks after signing the contract, she was locked in a preparation room at the most expensive hotel in Beverly Hills, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Hair impeccable, professional makeup, designer dress that cost more than her car, and the eyes of someone about to have a nervous breakdown. You can do this, she whispered to the mirror. It's just walking to the altar. Saying yes, smiling for the photos, simple. Millions of people do this every day. Her reflection didn't look convinced. Millions of people get married for love, she corrected. You're getting married out of financial desperation. Small difference. The door opened. An events assistant poked her head in. 5 minutes, Miss Reed. 5 minutes, Sophia repeated. Great. Perfect. Enough time to rethink all my life choices. The assistant smiled nervously and closed the door. Sophia looked at the window. Then at the door. Then at the window again. The window overlooked the parking lot. No, she told herself. No, Sophia, you're not going to escape through the window. That's ridiculous. That's something from a movie. You're an adult woman, a mature woman, a woman who's going to marry a billionaire in 5 minutes and… She opened the window. 4 minutes, she corrected, throwing one leg outside. Technically still enough time for a complete mental breakdown. The hotel parking lot was underground, lit by neon lights that gave everything the appearance of a cheap thriller movie. Sophia ran between the cars, the dress dragging on the concrete floor, her heels echoing like gunshots. This is crazy, she panted, talking to herself because she was the only company available. This is complete and absolute madness. You just jumped out of a window. In a wedding dress, in a parking lot. She tripped on the hem of the dress. She fell. The impact was cushioned by approximately 70 layers of tulle and organza. Great, she said to the concrete ceiling. Perfect. Now I'm a runaway bride lying in a parking lot. Exactly the fairy tale every girl dreams of. She tried to get up. The dress didn't cooperate. It was like trying to get out of an angry cloud. Come on, she grumbled, rolling to the side. You can do this. Just push the fabric to… Need help? Sophia froze. Slowly, she turned her head. Ethan Walker was standing 3 meters away, impeccable in a black suit, hands in his pockets, watching her with the expression of someone who had found a particularly interesting problem in his path. No, Sophia said, still on the ground. Everything is under control. I'm just testing the dress's durability. Quality control. Very important. Ethan didn't move. You're running away. I'm not running away. I'm getting some air. In the parking lot. It's quality air. Very concrete. Very neon. He walked over to her and extended his hand. Sophia stared at the hand for 3 seconds, then accepted it. Ethan pulled her up with irritating ease, as if 12 pounds of dress were tissue paper. Thank you, Sophia murmured, adjusting the layers of fabric. I would have managed on my own, eventually. We have 300 guests waiting, Ethan said, without letting go of her hand, including 2 senators, a federal judge, and the mayor. Wow, fun party. I bet there's live music too. String quartet. Of course there's a string quartet. Sophia let out a hysterical laugh. Why wouldn't there be? Ethan stared at her, those gray eyes that seemed to read thoughts. You're scared. I'm not scared. She stopped, took a deep breath. Okay, yes, I'm terrified. Happy now? Not particularly. This is a fake wedding, Ethan. a contract, and there are 300 people up there waiting for us to pretend it's real. This isn't normal. This isn't healthy. This is necessary, he completed. For you, for your family. Sophia closed her eyes. He was right. She hated that he was right. What if I can't do it? She asked, her voice small. What if I walk in there and faint, or throw up? Or start talking to myself at the altar, and everyone realizes I'm a fraud? You talk to yourself all the time. No one will find it strange. Sophia opened her eyes. Was that a joke? It was an observation. It sounded like a joke. I don't make jokes. Clearly, they stared at each other for a moment. The neon flickered above them, creating strange shadows on Ethan's face. You signed a contract, he finally said. You gave your word. I know. Then honor your word. He offered his arm. Let's go. Sophia looked at his arm, at the impossible-to-read face, at the empty parking lot around them, and sighed. If I faint at the altar, will you catch me? Probably not. Honest. I appreciate that. She placed her hand on his arm. The ceremony was a blur of lights, camera flashes, and unfamiliar faces. Sophia said yes at the right moment. She didn't faint. She didn't throw up. She didn't start an existential monologue. Small victories. When the moment for the kiss came, she froze. Ethan leaned in and pressed his lips to her forehead. Cold, brief, calculated. The audience applauded as if it were the most romantic gesture in the world. Very convincing, Sophia whispered through her teeth, smiling for the cameras. Thank you, Ethan responded, his arm around her waist for the photos. I rehearsed. Was that also a joke? What do you think? Sophia didn't know what to think. About anything at all. The photos continued. The guests congratulated them. The quartet played something classical and probably very expensive. And somewhere between the forced smiles and handshakes, Sophia realized there was no going back. She was officially Mrs. Walker, at least on paper. 3 hours later, still in the 12-pound dress, Sophia got into the limousine that would take them to the mansion where she would live. With him. For 2 years. Ethan got in next, closing the door behind him. The silence inside the car was almost solid. What now? Sophia asked. Ethan looked at her. Now, he said. The hard part begins. Sophia swallowed hard. The limousine started moving, and Beverly Hills slid past the windows like a dream she wasn't sure she wanted to be dreaming. The mansion had 14 bedrooms. Sophia knew because she spent the first hour counting, just to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. 14 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a kitchen the size of her old apartment, and a silence so deep she could hear her own thoughts echoing off the walls. On her first morning as Mrs. Walker, Sophia woke up at 6:47. Not by choice, but because the mattress was so comfortable that her body panicked, thinking something was wrong. Okay, she whispered, looking at the absurdly high ceiling. First day. You can do this. It's just living in a mansion with a stranger who is now your husband. Simple. She got up and went exploring. The hallway looked like a museum. Paintings on the walls that probably were worth fortunes. Vases she was afraid to breathe near. A silence that weighed like a lead blanket. Good morning, hallway, Sophia said quietly, because talking to herself was her comfort zone. You're very intimidating. Congratulations. Keep it up. She went down the marble staircase, holding the railing tightly because slipping and rolling down the stairs on the first day would be too embarrassing, even for her. The kitchen was a work of art in stainless steel and white marble. Everything sparkled. Everything looked like it had never been used. Sophia opened the refrigerator, expecting to find maybe an old pizza or leftover Chinese food. She found 15 different types of artisan cheese, 3 bottles of green juice, and something that looked like caviar. Of course, she murmured. Why would there be normal food? Normal people eat goat cheese fermented by Tibetan monks for breakfast. Everyone knows that. She grabbed a slice of cheese, bit it, made a face. This tastes like regret, she told the refrigerator. Regret with notes of organic farm. That's a $200 French Roquefort, Sophie choked. Ethan was standing in the kitchen doorway, already fully dressed in a gray suit at 6:50 in the morning, because apparently he slept in suits, or was born in suits. She wasn't sure. $200? Sophia repeated, looking at the bitten piece in her hand. For cheese? Per half pound. And I just bit into it like it was supermarket cheddar. Apparently. Sophia put the cheese back in the refrigerator with exaggerated care, as if it were a sacred relic. Sorry, I didn't know the refrigerator had museum items. Maybe you should put up a sign. Do not touch, too expensive. You don't deserve it. Ethan didn't respond. He just walked to the coffee machine, a machine that looked like the control panel of a spaceship, and started pressing buttons. "Have you had coffee?" he asked without looking at her. "I was going to, but I got intimidated by your machine. It looks like you need an engineering degree to operate it." First button, black coffee. Second button, with milk. And the third, don't press the third. Why? Just don't press it. Sophia looked at the third button with morbid curiosity. What would happen if she pressed it? Would the machine explode? Would it open a portal to another dimension? Would it serve coffee so strong she'd time travel? She decided not to risk it. Ethan finished making his coffee and left the kitchen without saying anything else. No good morning. No how did you sleep. None of the pleasantries that normal people exchange when sharing a space. Great conversation, Sophia said to the empty air. Very productive. I feel like our communication is evolving. The following days established a pattern. Ethan woke up at 5:30, had coffee, disappeared into the office until late, came back, ate dinner alone, went to bed. Sophia tried to exist in the spaces that were left. On Wednesday, she decided to watch television in the living room. She was in the middle of an episode of a cooking show when Ethan passed by. He stopped, looked at the screen. "You're watching people cook," he said, as if it were the strangest thing in the world. "Yes, it's relaxing." "Why? Why is it relaxing, or why am I watching?" "Both." Sophia blinked. "Because it's fun? Because I like seeing pretty food? Because my life has turned into a circus and this is the only thing that makes me feel normal?" Ethan stared at her for 3 seconds, then kept walking. "Good night," he said, already with his back turned. "It's 7:30 at night." He didn't respond. Sophia looked at the television, then at the empty hallway, then at the television again. "I married a ghost," she told the show host. "A very rich ghost who doesn't know what fun is." "What a great life choice, Sophia. Congratulations." On Friday, the tension reached a new level. Sophia was in the bathroom. The bathroom of the room she had chosen, 3 doors away from his room, when she realized she didn't have a towel. The towel closet was in the hallway. She was wrapped in a hand towel that barely covered the essentials. "Okay," she whispered. "The hallway is empty. He's in the office. Just run. 5 seconds. You can do this." She opened the door, ran, and crashed directly into Ethan. The impact was enough to make her let out a scream. The hand towel almost escaped. She held on with the strength of an Olympic athlete. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked, his eyes very wide. "Getting a towel," Sophia practically screamed. "What are you doing in the hallway?" "I live here." "In the hallway." "In the house." Sophia felt her face catching fire. Red, scarlet, possibly purple. "This never happened," she said, backing toward the closet. "We are never going to talk about this." "Agreed?" Ethan didn't agree, nor disagree. He just stood there, his face returning to that unreadable mask as always. "There are towels in your bathroom closet," he said. "Second cabinet. On the left." And he left. Sophia stood in the hallway, clutching the hand towel, wishing the floor would swallow her. "Second cabinet," she repeated to herself. "On the left. Of course. Why would I look in the obvious place?" She grabbed a towel from the hallway closet and went back to her room. That night, lying in the absurdly comfortable bed, she stared at the ceiling. "1 week," she whispered. 1 week and I already almost showed everything to my contract husband. This marriage is going very well." The mansion's silence responded with more silence. And somewhere in the hallway, Sophia swore she heard a door closing. He was awake too. 3:17 in the morning. Sophia was awake because her brain had decided this was the perfect time to revisit every embarrassing moment of her life. The towel incident, the $200 cheese, the time she called her teacher mom in 3rd grade. "Enough," she whispered to the ceiling. "If I'm going to suffer, at least I'm going to suffer while eating." She tiptoed down the stairs, wearing flannel pajamas with cloud print, the only ones she had brought from her old life, the only ones that still felt like hers. The mansion at night was even more silent. Each step echoed as if she were breaking into a museum. The shadows seemed to watch her with judgment. "You don't scare me," she told a particularly intimidating vase. "I've watched horror movies. I know how this works. You're just ceramic." The vase didn't respond. Good sign. Sophia pushed open the kitchen door, expecting to find darkness. She found Ethan. He was sitting at the marble counter, a glass of water in his hand, still wearing the dress shirt from the day, but without the jacket, without the tie, with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. It was the most informal thing she had ever seen on him. The equivalent of nudity, probably. "Oh," Sophia said, freezing in the doorway. Hi, sorry, I didn't know you were existing here. Ethan looked at her, then looked at the cloud pajamas, said nothing. It's pajamas, she explained unnecessarily. With clouds. I know it doesn't match the minimalist billionaire decor, but it's comfortable. And the clouds are cute. Not that you care about cuteness. You probably sleep in a suit. I don't sleep in a suit. Do you sleep? The question came out before she could stop it. Ethan was silent for 3 seconds. Sometimes. Sophia walked to the refrigerator, trying to look natural, as if finding her contract husband in the kitchen at 3 in the morning was something completely routine. So, she said, opening the refrigerator and eyeing the artisan cheeses with suspicion, are you the type who doesn't sleep or the type who can't sleep? What's the difference? One is a choice, the other is torture. She grabbed a container of Greek yogurt, the most normal thing she found, and closed the refrigerator. The second one, Ethan said. Sophia stopped, looked at him. In the dim kitchen light, she noticed for the first time the dark circles. Subtle, well disguised, but there. The exhaustion he hid so well during the day was exposed now, at the edges of his face in the slightly curved shoulders. How long? She asked. How long what? Since you've slept properly. Ethan turned the glass of water in his hand. Years. The word hung in the air. Heavy, lonely. Sophia pulled up a stool and sat on the other side of the counter, opening the yogurt. Want to know my secret for insomnia? She offered. You have a secret? I count sheep, but I give each one a name. And then I start thinking about their personalities. Number 47, for example, is named Roberto. He's rebellious, doesn't like jumping fences, has problems with authority. Ethan stared at her. You name imaginary sheep and backstories. Roberto had a difficult childhood. The other sheep didn't understand him. That's genius, revolutionary, the secret to inner peace? I was going to say disturbing. That works too. Sophia ate a spoonful of yogurt, smiling. It was the longest conversation they had had since the wedding, probably since they met. Why don't you sleep? She asked, softer now. Ethan looked at the glass of water as if the answer were inside it. Thoughts, he finally said. Too many. All the time. About what? Everything. He paused. Work. Decisions. Things I did. Things I didn't do. Regrets? He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Sophia let the silence breathe for a moment. You know, she said, I used to think billionaires didn't have problems, that you all lived in money bubbles where everything was perfect and the only concerns were which yacht to buy or which private island to visit in the summer. Islands are overrated. Was that a joke? It was an observation. Your observations sound like jokes. Maybe you laugh too easily, or maybe you're secretly funny and don't know it. Ethan looked at her. For a second, a single second, something changed in his face. A softening, a crack in the armor. Then it vanished. You should go back to sleep, he said. You too. I'll stay a little longer. Sophia finished the yogurt and stood up, walked to the door, stopped. Ethan? He raised his eyes. Roberto sends his regards. He said you can jump the fence whenever you want. No judgment. Ethan was silent, and then so fast that Sophia almost missed it, the corner of his mouth curved. 0.5 millimeter, maybe less, but it was there. A smile. Microscopic, almost invisible, but real. Good night, Sophia. It was the first time he had used her name like that, without formality, without coldness, just the name. Good night, Ethan. She went up the stairs with a strange feeling in her chest, something she couldn't name. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, she replayed the scene in her head. His exhaustion, the almost smile, the way he said her name. No, she whispered to herself. No, Sophia, you are not developing feelings. This is a contract, a business deal. He said it himself. You can't. But the thought didn't complete itself, because deep down in a part she didn't want to admit, something had changed, and she didn't know if that was good or terrible. The next morning, Sophia came down for coffee expecting the usual silence. Instead, she found a cup of coffee ready on the counter and a post-it note beside it. First button. She smiled. And at that moment, without warning, Ethan's phone rang in the office. His assistant's voice echoed down the hallway. Mr. Walker, it's urgent. It's about the private matter. The private matter. Sophia frowned. What private matter? The private matter kept pounding in Sophia's head for 3 days. 3 days of curious glances, swallowed questions, and an absurd urge to snoop around Ethan's office. She resisted, mainly because the door was always locked. On the 4th night, the tension exploded. It started with a dinner. A business dinner at the mansion with important investors that Sophia didn't even know were coming until she saw the cars arriving through the window. "You could have warned me," she hissed at Ethan in the hallway while the housekeeper set the table. "I did warn you. I sent an email. I don't read your corporate emails. Maybe you should start. Maybe you should learn to use your mouth to speak like a normal human being." Ethan looked at her with that concrete wall expression. "Wear something appropriate. The guests arrive in 20 minutes. And he left. Sophia stood in the hallway, her hands shaking with anger. "Wear something appropriate," she repeated to herself, going up the stairs. "Of course, because I was going to receive investors in cloud pajamas. That was exactly my intention. Thank you for the vote of confidence, dear husband." The dinner was refined torture. Sophia smiled, nodded, pretended to understand real estate markets, and tried not to spill wine on the linen tablecloth that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Ethan was in full CEO mode, charming with the investors, attentive to their wives, and completely cold with her. Every time he ignored her, every time he answered for her, every time he treated her like a decorative accessory, Sophia felt the anger growing. At 11 at night, the guests left. The door barely closed and Sophia exploded. What was that? Ethan was walking toward the office. He stopped. What was what? That. Sophia gestured toward the dining room. "You treated me like I was a table ornament. You didn't let me speak. You didn't include me in the conversation. You practically introduced me as the wife, and that was it. You are the wife." "I'm a person?" Her voice rose. "A person with opinions, thoughts, and a mouth that works perfectly well." "I noticed. It doesn't stop working." Sophia took a step toward him. That is exactly the problem. You think you can treat me like an item in the contract, like I'm a clause. Wife, present at events, does not require interaction. Ethan turned to face her completely. "You knew what you were getting into when you signed. I knew it was a deal. I didn't know I would be treated like furniture. You're exaggerating, and you're being a jerk." The word echoed in the empty hallway. Sophia almost covered her own mouth. Almost. But she didn't regret it. Ethan took a step toward her, then another. His gray eyes were different now, no longer icy. Something burned behind them. "I'm a jerk," he repeated, his voice low. "Yes." Sophia didn't back down. "A jerk who doesn't know how to treat people, who hides behind contracts because he's afraid of real connection, who probably never let anyone get close because that would mean being vulnerable. You don't know anything about me. Because you don't let me." She threw her hands up. "Every time I try, every time it seems like we're getting somewhere, you shut down. Freeze. Go back to being the robot in a suit who thinks money solves everything. Money solved your family's problem." The blow landed squarely. Sophia felt like she had been slapped. "Wow," she said, her voice coming out strangled. That was low. Even for you." Something changed in Ethan's face. A crack. Regret, maybe. "Sophia, no," she raised her hand. "No, you're right. You bought a wife. And bought wives don't have the right to complain, do they? I should just stay quiet, pretty and grateful." "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did." Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. "You did. And you know what's worst? I was starting to think that maybe you were more than this. That there was something real underneath all that armor. But clearly I was wrong." She turned to leave. Ethan grabbed her wrist. The movement was quick, unexpected. Sophia spun around, ready to scream, ready to push, ready for anything except what happened. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't calculated. It was desperate, urgent, as if he were drowning and she were air. Sophia was paralyzed for half a second, then a full second. Then her brain shut off completely and she was kissing back, her hands grabbing his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss lasted an eternity. Or 5 seconds. She couldn't tell. When they separated, both were breathless. "What?" Sophia began. "I don't know," Ethan said, looking as shocked as she was. They stared at each other. The distance between their faces was still minimal, their breathing still uneven. "This wasn't in the contract," Sophia whispered. "No. This complicates everything. I know." Another moment of silence. Charged. Electric. Then Ethan stepped back. 1 step, 2, the wall rising again. "That was a mistake," he said. "Was it? It can't happen again." Sophia felt something break in her chest. "Okay," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Okay. Mistake. Got it." She went up the stairs without looking back. In the room, she closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down to the floor. "Okay," she told herself, her hands shaking. "Okay. Analyze, Sophia. It was just a kiss. Kisses happen. People kiss. It doesn't mean anything. She touched her own lips. It doesn't mean anything, she repeated. But her heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her ears. You're in trouble, she whispered. Completely, absolutely in trouble. You fell for the robot who just said it was a mistake. Congratulations, Sophia. Your life choices continue to be flawless. She stayed there on the floor, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time since this marriage started, she felt real fear. Not of Ethan, of herself. The next morning, Sophia came down expecting embarrassment. She found an empty mansion and an envelope on the kitchen counter with the name of a child she had never heard of. The envelope had the name Noah Walker written in cursive letters. Inside, a photo of a boy approximately 8 years old with the same gray eyes as Ethan. Sophia stood in the kitchen for a time she couldn't calculate. 30 seconds. 3 minutes. An eternity. Okay, she said to the photo. Okay, this is a child. A Walker child. Which means that... She stopped. No, she said. No, this can't be what I'm thinking. But it was exactly what she was thinking. Ethan Walker had a son she didn't know existed, a son that nobody seemed to know existed. I married a man who has a secret son, Sophia said to the refrigerator because it was the only witness available. A secret son. Like in a soap opera. Like in a bad Sunday afternoon movie. My life has become a bad Sunday afternoon movie. The refrigerator didn't respond. The artisan cheeses didn't either. Sophia put the photo back in the envelope and spent the next 4 hours walking around the mansion like a nervous ghost, waiting for Ethan to come back. He arrived at 7 in the evening. Impeccable suit, unreadable face, as always. Sophia was sitting in the living room, the envelope on the coffee table between them like a grenade about to explode. Ethan saw the envelope, stopped. The silence that followed was the heaviest they had ever shared. Where did you find this? His voice was low, controlled, dangerously controlled. In the kitchen. Someone must have left it by mistake. It wasn't meant for you to see, clearly. Sophia crossed her arms. But I saw it, so now you can explain to me why my husband has a son I didn't know existed. Ethan didn't move, didn't sit, didn't take his eyes off her. That's not part of our agreement. Our agreement didn't include secrets the size of a child. Noah is not your business. Noah. Sophia repeated the name. So he has a name. He's real. He exists. And you hid this from me. I hid it from everyone. The sentence came out heavy. Tired. Different from Ethan's usual tone. Sophia stood up. Why? Because it's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. She took a step toward him. Tell me. Who is he? Where is the mother? Why did you never mention you have a son? Ethan ran a hand over his face. It was the first time Sophia had seen a gesture like that from him. A human gesture. Vulnerable. His mother's name is Victoria, he finally said. We had a relationship 9 years ago. Short. Intense. She got pregnant. And she didn't want to be a mother. Ethan walked to the window, his back to Sophia. When Noah was born, she tried. For a few months. But she couldn't. She just left. Left him with me and disappeared. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs. She abandoned her own son? She said she wasn't made for that it would be better for everyone if she left. And you? I did what I thought was right at the time. Ethan's voice was rough now. I hired the best nannies, the best tutors, put him in a private school in Northern California. Made sure he had everything. Everything except a father. Ethan turned around. You don't understand. Then help me understand. I don't know how to be a father. The explosion was sudden. Unexpected. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to talk to a child. I don't know how to do any of the things normal fathers do. Every time I looked at him, I saw everything I was doing wrong. It was better to keep my distance than to mess things up even more. Sophia fell silent. The pain on Ethan's face was raw, real. The kind of pain that comes from years of accumulated guilt. How often do you see him? She asked, softer now. Once a month, sometimes less. Does he know who you are? He knows I'm his father. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. The father who shows up with expensive presents and disappears before dinner. The father who pays the bills but doesn't know the name of his best friend. Sophia felt her heart tighten. No. He raised his hand. Don't look at me like that, with pity. I don't deserve pity. I made choices. Wrong choices. And now my 8-year-old son lives 300 miles away and probably hates me. You don't know if he hates you. Would you look at a father like that and feel what? Love? Sophia had no answer for that. The silence stretched between them. Different from the previous silences. This one was truly heavy. Heavy with secrets, with guilt, with things unsaid. Why are you telling me this? Sophia finally asked. Because you asked. You could have lied. I could have. Ethan looked her in the eyes, but I didn't want to. Something passed between them. A connection, an understanding. What are you going to do? Sophia asked. I don't know. Do you want me to? She hesitated. Do you want me to help? Ethan looked at her as if she had said something in another language. Help how? I don't know yet, but you clearly don't know how to deal with this alone, and I'm your wife, at least on paper. Maybe I can. You don't have to do this. I know I don't have to. Sophia took a step toward him. But maybe I want to. Ethan's face was impossible to read, but something in his eyes changed, softened. Why do you care? Because you just showed me that you're human. Sophia smiled sadly. And humans need help sometimes. Even billionaires who think money solves everything. He almost smiled. Almost. Thank you, he said. The word came out strange, as if it wasn't used often. You're welcome. Sophia picked up the envelope from the table. Now when am I going to meet Noah? Ethan blinked. You want to meet him? Of course. If I'm going to help, I need to know who I'm dealing with. Besides, she looked at the photo of the gray-eyed boy. He seems nice. He looks like someone who would come up with great names for imaginary sheep. This time, Ethan definitely smiled. Small, quick, but real. Friday, he said. I can take you to meet him. Sophia nodded. Friday. 3 days to figure out if she knew how to handle a child who probably had more emotional walls than his own father. What could go wrong? Friday arrived too fast or too slow. Sophia couldn't tell. What she knew was that she was in the back seat of a luxury car, on her way to meet a child who would probably hate her. Ethan didn't come along. Emergency meeting, he said that morning, his face tense. Can you go alone? Alone? To meet your son for the first time? Without you? Margaret will accompany you. She knows the way. And so Sophia found herself traveling 300 miles with the most intimidating executive assistant on the planet, heading to a private school in Northern California. Margaret didn't talk. Sophia compensated by talking for 2. So, she tried for the 3rd time. Have you known Noah for a long time? Since he was born. Margaret responded without taking her eyes off the tablet. And he's… what? As a child? Intelligent. Just intelligent? Very intelligent. Sophia sighed. Okay, thanks for the detailed description. Really prepared me emotionally. The school was exactly what she imagined. Old buildings, huge gardens, children in uniforms walking like little executives. The kind of place that screamed money in every brick. Noah was waiting in the reception area. 8 years old. Dark hair, gray eyes identical to his father's, and an expression that clearly said, I didn't ask to be here. Hi, Sophia said, crouching down to his level. I'm Sophia. I'm my dad's new wife, Noah completed. I know. I saw it in the newspaper. Oh, you read the newspaper? Internet. Of course. Internet. 8-year-olds and internet. Makes sense. Noah stared at her with the same analytical intensity as Ethan. It was scary to see that look on such a small face. Why are you here? He asked. Because I wanted to meet you. Why? Because you're Ethan's son. A lot of people are something to Ethan. Nobody comes to visit me. The sentence hit Sophia in the chest like a punch. Well, she said, forcing a smile, I'm different from a lot of people. I talk to refrigerators and name imaginary sheep. Clearly, my priorities are unique. Noah frowned. Imaginary sheep? It's a long story. It involves insomnia and questionable life choices. For a second, a single second, something resembling curiosity passed across the boy's face. You're strange, he said. Thank you. That's the best compliment I've received this week. The next 2 hours were an exercise in patience and creativity. Sophia tried to talk about school. Noah responded in monosyllables. She tried asking about friends. He said friends are overrated. She tried asking about hobbies. He said he liked to read. Alone. In silence. Okay, Sophia finally said, sitting on a garden bench while Noah stared at nothing. I'm going to be honest with you, Noah. I don't know what I'm doing here. He looked at her. Then why did you come? Because your dad is terrible at emotional connections, and I thought maybe I could help. She paused. Also because I'm curious and I can't stand secrets. It's a personality flaw. Did my dad send you? No. He doesn't even know I'm trying this. Trying what? To be your friend. Or at least someone you don't want to disappear after 5 minutes. Noah was silent for a long moment. People always disappear, he said quietly. Sophia felt her heart tighten. Your mom? She left when I was 1. I don't even remember her. Just the photos. And your dad? He shows up sometimes, brings presents, asks about grades, then leaves. Noah kicked a pebble on the ground. I think he doesn't really like me. Noah? It's okay. The boy shrugged, pretending indifference. I'm used to it. Sophia wanted to cry. She wanted to hug that child. She wanted to call Ethan and yell at him until she lost her voice. Instead, she took a deep breath. Can I tell you a secret? Noah looked at her with suspicion. What kind of secret? The kind you might not believe. Sophia leaned closer. Your dad doesn't know how to be a father. He never learned. And when we don't know how to do something, sometimes we do it wrong. Sometimes we pull away because we're afraid of hurting more. Afraid? Your dad is one of the most scared people I've ever met. He just hides it very well. Noah processed the information. He doesn't look scared. Scared people rarely look scared. They look cold, distant, too busy to feel things. Sophia smiled sadly, but inside, they're terrified. How do you know? Because I'm like that sometimes too. The boy was silent. He looked at his own hands, then at Sophia. Will you come back? He asked. His voice was small, vulnerable. I will come back, Sophia promised. Every week if you want. My dad won't let you. Your dad doesn't need to know. Yet, a ghost of a smile appeared on Noah's face. You're very strange, he repeated. I know, it's my charm. On the trip back, Sophia stared at the window while California passed in blurs of green and blue. Margaret finally broke the silence. Mr. Walker is not going to like hearing that you'll see him again. Then don't tell him, yet. Miss Reed, Sophia. She turned to Margaret. Call me Sophia, and I know what I'm doing. That boy has been alone for 8 years. Someone needs to change that. Margaret observed her for a moment. Something that could be respect passed through her eyes. Mr. Walker is complicated, she finally said. I noticed. But he's not a bad person. I know that too. The rest of the trip was in silence. When she arrived at the mansion, Ethan was in the office. Sophia went straight to her room, her heart heavy with everything she had seen and heard. Noah needed a father. Ethan needed a push. And she, apparently, had just put herself in the middle of a situation much bigger than she imagined. The following weeks, her phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Sophia? The voice was small, hesitant. It's Noah. I got your number from Margaret. Can you come on Saturday? Sophia smiled. I'll be there. But before she could hang up, she heard footsteps behind her. Ethan was at the door, his eyes fixed on her. Who is it? Who was on the phone? Sophia was still holding the phone, Noah's voice echoing in her memory. Ethan was standing at the bedroom door, his eyes fixed on her. It was Noah, she admitted. Noah called you? Yes, he got my number from Margaret. Ethan frowned. Why is my 8-year-old son calling you? Because I went back to see him. Sophia took a deep breath. More than once. Over the past 3 weeks, the silence that followed was icy. You went to see him without telling me. You were always busy, and he needed someone. He has everything he needs. He has things, Ethan. He doesn't have people. His face hardened. The argument lasted 40 minutes. It ended without a winner, and with a Walker Enterprises gala scheduled for that very night, an event neither of them could miss. The hotel was the most luxurious in Beverly Hills. Crystal chandeliers, French champagne. 400 guests, dressed as if money were made of fabric. Sophia wore a navy blue dress that cost more than 3 months of her old rent. Ethan was beside her, impeccable as always, pretending they hadn't fought badly hours before. Smile, he murmured through the corner of his mouth as they greeted another couple of investors. I am smiling. That looks like a grimace. It's the best I can do after you called me nosy. I didn't use that word. You used worse ones. The investor couple walked away with confused expressions. Great, Sophia whispered. Now they think we're a troubled couple. We are a troubled couple. At least we agree on that. The night continued in a parade of faces, names, and handshakes. Sophia lost count of how many times she heard, "You make such a beautiful couple," followed by looks that were clearly trying to figure out what she had done to snag a billionaire. She was getting her 3rd glass of champagne when she heard it. Did you hear? A woman in a red dress was whispering to another near the canapé table. It seems Walker has a huge secret. What kind of secret? A son. Kidder. 8 years old. Sophia froze. That's impossible, the other woman said. That would be a scandal. My source is reliable. Someone from the school leaked it. Apparently, his new wife has been visiting the child several times. Sophia's blood ran cold. She looked for Ethan with her eyes, found him across the ballroom, surrounded by executives. He didn't know yet, but it didn't take long. The whispers spread like fire on dry straw. Within 15 minutes, the entire ballroom was murmuring. The looks changed. Conversation stopped when Ethan passed. Sophia saw the exact moment he realized. His face became stone, more stone than usual, which was impressive. A man with gray hair, Harrison Burke, chairman of the board of Walker Enterprises, approached Ethan with an expression mixing shock and fury. Walker. A word. Now, Sophia followed them to a more secluded corner of the ballroom. Is this true? Burke asked, his voice low but cutting. You have a son you hid from everyone? My personal life is not the board's business. It is when it affects the company's image. Burke gestured to the ballroom. Look around. The investors are panicking. The media must already be outside. You hid a son for 8 years, Walker. This isn't personal life. This is a public relations bomb. Sophia wanted to defend Ethan, wanted to say he had his reasons, but the words stuck in her throat. What do you suggest? Ethan asked, his voice dangerously calm. Damage control. Deny it. Say it's a lie. Make the story disappear before it destroys everything you've built. Deny my son's existence. It's the only sensible option. Sophia felt her stomach turn. Ethan was silent for a long moment. The ballroom continued murmuring around them. Cell phone flashes blinked. Someone was already recording. What if I don't want to deny it? Burke blinked. What do you mean? What if I don't want to pretend my son doesn't exist? Ethan, be reasonable. I spent 8 years being reasonable. Ethan's voice rose for the first time. 8 years keeping my distance. 8 years thinking that hiding was protecting. And all I did was abandon my son the same way his mother abandoned him. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs. You're not thinking straight, Burke insisted. The pressure is my problem. Ethan straightened up. Noah is my son. And if this secret came out, maybe it's time to stop treating him like something to be ashamed of. Burke opened his mouth to protest, but Ethan was already walking. Toward the stage, toward the microphone. Sophia followed him with her eyes, her heart racing. What is he doing? She whispered to no one. Ethan climbed onto the stage, took the microphone. The entire ballroom fell silent. Good evening, he said, his voice echoing through the speakers. It seems you've heard some rumors tonight. I'd like to clarify. 400 people held their breath. I have a son. Ethan paused. His name is Noah. He's 8 years old. And I've been an absent father for far too long. The murmurs exploded. I've made mistakes, Ethan continued, his voice steady despite the chaos. Mistakes I intend to correct. Starting now. Sophia felt tears in her eyes. Ethan stepped down from the stage. Flashes went off. Questions flew from all sides, but he ignored everything. He walked straight to her. You were right, he said quietly, just for her to hear. About what? About everything. His eyes were different, vulnerable, human. What are you going to do now? Sophia asked. Ethan looked at the chaotic ballroom around them. Bring my son home. Sophia smiled through the tears. But before she could respond, an aide appeared beside them, his face pale. Mr. Walker, we have a problem. Noah's mother, she saw the news, and she's demanding to speak with you. Ethan's face froze. Victoria, the woman who abandoned her own son 8 years ago, was back. Victoria didn't get anything. Ethan's lawyers were better and more expensive than anything she could afford. A week after the scandal, she disappeared, back to wherever she had been for the last 8 years. And Noah came to live at the mansion. Sophia was in the living room when the car arrived. She saw through the window the boy get out, a backpack on his shoulders, and went down to greet him. Is this a house or a mall? Noah asked, standing at the entrance. It's a house, Sophia answered, smiling. But I asked myself the same thing on the first day. How many rooms does it have? 14. What for? Nobody knows. I think it's to impress visitors. Noah considered the information. Seems like a waste. I like you, kid. Ethan appeared behind them, carrying a suitcase. He looked out of place. A billionaire CEO who clearly didn't know what to do with a child full-time. Noah, you can choose any room on the 2nd floor, he said formally, except the master bedroom and Sophia's. Can I choose the biggest one? If you want. Cool. Noah looked around. And where's the kitchen? I'm hungry. Sophia laughed. Come with me. I'll show you where the expensive cheeses are that your dad doesn't let anyone eat. Ethan began. Relax. I'll get the regular cheddar. She winked at Noah. The common people's cheddar. It's the only safe one. The first few days were in adorable chaos. Noah explored every corner of the mansion like an archaeologist discovering ancient ruins. He asked questions about everything, touched things he shouldn't touch, left cookie crumbs on the Italian leather sofa. Ethan seemed on the verge of a nervous breakdown. He put his feet on the sofa, he said to Sophia on the 3rd night, his voice tense. Kids do that. That sofa cost $20,000. Then maybe you should have bought a cheaper sofa. Sophia. Ethan. She turned to face him. He's a child. Children make messes, they make noise, they leave crumbs. If you want him here, you're going to have to accept that. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, closed it, opened it again. I don't know how to do this, he finally admitted. Nobody does. You learn by doing. What if I do it wrong? You will do it wrong. Several times, and then you'll try again. He was silent for a moment. Thank you, he said quietly. For being here, for helping. Sophia smiled, but something tightened in her chest. Helping. That's what she was. A helper. An employee with a ring. The contract. Always the contract. By the second week, Noah had already transformed his room into a chaos of books, toys, and drawings. He had discovered the third button on the coffee machine, which apparently made hot chocolate, and established a routine of watching cooking shows with Sophia every night. Do you like to cook? He asked one night, the two of them on the $20,000 sofa that now had a suspicious stain in the corner. I like watching people cook. Doing it is another story. Why? Because I burn water. Noah laughed. It was a beautiful sound. A sound Sophia realized he didn't make often. You're funny, he said. Thank you. I practice. My dad isn't funny. No, but he tries sometimes. Noah was quiet for a moment. Do you like him? The question caught Sophia off guard. She hesitated. It's complicated. Adults always say that when they don't want to answer, because sometimes the answer really is complicated. Noah looked at her with those gray eyes identical to his father's. I think you like him, he said. And I think he likes you too. He's different when you're around. Different how? Less robot. Sophia laughed, but her heart ached. Less robot. But still, a contract. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. She lay looking at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. The forced marriage, the cold coexistence, the small cracks, the kiss, Noah. And the truth she didn't want to admit, she had fallen in love. With a man who saw her as a business deal, with a situation that had an expiration date, with a family that would never really be hers. The next morning she made a decision. She waited for Ethan to leave for work, waited for Noah to go to school. Now a school in Los Angeles, closer to home. And she started packing. She wouldn't take much. She had arrived with little, she would leave with even less. She was closing the second suitcase when she heard the door. What are you doing? It was Noah, standing in the bedroom doorway, his school backpack still on his back. Noah! What are you doing here? You should be at school. I forgot my math homework. He looked at the suitcases. Are you leaving? Sophia felt her stomach sink. Noah, you promised you wouldn't disappear. His voice trembled. You promised. I know, but everyone disappears. His eyes filled with tears. My mom disappeared. My dad used to disappear. And now you too. Sophia felt her heart break into pieces. Noah, listen. No, he took a step back. I knew I shouldn't trust you. I knew it. He ran off. Sophia went after him. Noah, wait, but he had already gone down the stairs, crossed the living room, opened the front door, and came face to face with Ethan, who was coming back because he had forgotten his phone. Noah? Ethan looked from his son to Sophia, who was running after him. What's happening? She's leaving, Noah shouted. Like everyone else. Ethan looked at Sophia, at the tears on her face, at the guilt in her eyes. Is it true? He asked quietly. Sophia couldn't answer. The silence said everything. Sophia left that same afternoon. She didn't look back. She couldn't if she looked. Noah's face, Ethan's eyes, the mansion that had almost become home. Everything was left behind when the taxi crossed the gates of Beverly Hills. She returned to the only place that was still hers, the small design studio in downtown Los Angeles, where she had worked before all this madness began. A tiny space on the third floor of an old building with a window that didn't close properly and an air conditioner that made tractor noises. It was perfect. It was real. It was everything the mansion wasn't. Welcome back to the world of mortals, Sophia said to herself, throwing her suitcase in the corner, where sofas cost $200 and nobody cares if you put your feet on them. The studio smelled like paint and old coffee. The walls were covered with unfinished projects, abandoned ideas, dreams she had set aside when she accepted that ridiculous contract. She sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, and let the tears fall. She cried for Noah, who thought she was another person abandoning him. She cried for Ethan, who probably would never understand why she needed to leave. And she cried for herself, for being foolish enough to fall in love with a business deal. Congratulations, Sophia. she murmured between sobs. You did it. You fell in love with the robot. And now you're crying in a studio that smells like mold. Impressive evolution. The following days were a blur of work, instant coffee, and conversations with herself. Sophia dove into old projects, answered calls from clients who didn't even remember she existed anymore, pretended she was fine when the neighbor downstairs asked if she had separated. Technically, no, Sophia answered, because technically it was never real. The neighbor didn't understand. Sophia didn't try to explain either. On the fifth night, she was sitting on the floor of the studio, surrounded by sketches and delivery food containers, when she heard knocking at the door. We're closed, she shouted without getting up. More knocking. I said we're closed. Come back tomorrow. Sophia, she froze. She knew that voice, knew it too well. No, this isn't happening. I'm hallucinating. It's too much coffee or lack of sleep, or both. Sophia, I know you're in there. Go away, Ethan. No. What do you mean no? I'm not leaving until you open this door. Sophia looked at the door, then at the mirror in the corner of the studio. She was wearing a paint-stained t-shirt, sweatpants ripped at the knee, and a bun that looked like a bird's nest after a hurricane. I look terrible, she murmured. I don't care. Ethan's voice responded through the door. You heard that? The walls are thin. Great. Wonderful. Zero privacy. She got up, tripping over a noodle container. This is so typical. Typical of this universe that hates me. She went to the door, stopped, took a deep breath, and opened it. Ethan Walker was standing in the hallway, wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt. No suit, no tie, no armor. It was the strangest thing Sophia had ever seen. You're wearing jeans, she said. Yes, you wear jeans? Apparently. Since when? Since my 8-year-old son said I look like a sad penguin in a suit. Sophia almost laughed. Almost. What are you doing here, Ethan? I need to talk to you. About what? The contract? The termination? Gosh, the clauses I probably violated by leaving without notice? About us. The word hung in the air, heavy, unexpected. There is no us, Sophia said. There's a deal. That ended. End of story. I don't want it to be the end. Sophia blinked. What? Ethan took a step forward. She took a step back. He entered the studio, looking around with an expression that mixed curiosity and something that could be affection. So this is where you work, he said. Work. It's complicated. I like it. You like it? The studio that smells like mold and has a broken window? It looks like you. Was that an insult or a compliment? Compliment. He turned to face her. It's real. It's honest. There's nothing fake about it. Sophia crossed her arms. Ethan, why are you here? Because I was an idiot. I already knew that. And because I love you. The air left Sophia's lungs as if someone had punched her in the stomach. What? I love you, Ethan repeated. I know I didn't show it. I know I treated everything like business. I know I was cold, distant, and probably the worst person you've ever lived with. But at some point, between the arguments and the silences and the late-night coffees, I fell in love with you. And I don't know how to handle it because I've never felt this before. Sophia stood there, processing. Okay, she finally said. Okay, wait, hold on. You're declaring yourself? Now, in my messy studio? While I look like a scarecrow that lost a fight with a hurricane? Yes. And you think this is romantic? I don't know what romantic is. I've never done this before. Clearly, Ethan took another step toward her. Sophia, I know I messed everything up. I know I hurt you. I know you have every right to send me away and never look at my face again. I certainly do. But I'm asking for a chance. A real chance. No contracts, no deals, no expiration dates. Sophia felt her eyes burn. And Noah? He's in the car? In the car? He insisted on coming. He said if I messed everything up again, he wanted to be there to criticize me. Sophia let out an involuntary laugh. He's smart, too smart for his own good. They stood in silence for a moment, the air between them charged with everything they had been through. I'm scared, Sophia finally admitted, of getting hurt again, of believing and then finding out it was just another deal. I know. You treated me like a contract item, Ethan. For months. I know, and I'm sorry. More than I can express. And now you show up here in jeans saying you love me? Yes. This is ridiculous. Probably. This is something from a bad movie. You've said that before. And it's still true. Ethan extended his hand. Sophia Reed. Do you accept starting over with me? Not as a contract. Not as a deal. As two people who, for some inexplicable reason, found each other in the middle of chaos and decided it's worth trying? Sophia looked at his hand, then at his face, at the gray eyes that now seemed different, warmer, more human. Are you going to keep being difficult? She asked. Probably. And cold sometimes? I'm working on it. And terrible at expressing emotions? Noah's teaching me. He says I have potential. Sophia laughed. A real laugh this time. Okay, she said. Okay, I accept. Starting over, trying, seeing where it goes. The smile that appeared on Ethan's face was different from anything she had ever seen. Open, genuine, almost silly. Thank you, said. Don't thank me yet. I'm still furious with you. Fair. And you're gonna have to try very hard to make up for it. I know. And I want chocolate. Lots of chocolate. Done. And flowers. What kind? She paused. Except funeral ones. Avoid white chrysanthemums. Noted. The studio door suddenly opened. Noah appeared breathless. You two are taking too long. I was about to call 911. Noah, I told you to wait in the car. You said a lot of things. I ignored most of them. He looked from Ethan to Sophia. So? Did it work? Did she forgive you? Sophia crouched down in front of him. We're working on it, she said. Is that a yes or a no? It's a we'll see, Noah considered. Acceptable. He looked at his dad. Did you at least tell her you love her? Ethan turned red. Noah. Did you or didn't you? I did. Good. That was the only useful thing I taught you. Sophia laughed so hard she cried. And there in the small, messy studio, with a billionaire in jeans and an 8-year-old who was apparently the most unlikely Cupid in the world, she realized that maybe, just maybe, everything could work out. Shall we go home? Ethan asked. Sophia looked at him. At Noah? At the studio that had been her refuge. Let's go, she said. But before they could leave, Noah tugged at her sleeve. Sophia? Yes? Can you teach me how to name imaginary sheep? She smiled. Absolutely. And for the first time in a long time, home seemed to mean more than 4 walls. 6 months later, Sophia was standing on a beach in Malibu, barefoot in the sand, the wind messing up her hair in a way the hairdresser definitely wouldn't approve. There weren't 400 guests. There was no string quartet. There was no 12-pound dress or 30-page contracts. Just her, Ethan, Noah, and the most beautiful sunset Los Angeles had ever produced. Are you nervous? Noah asked, standing beside her with a bouquet of flowers he had chosen himself. Daisies, because roses are too cliché. Me? Nervous? Sophia let out a laugh that came out 2 octaves higher than normal. Why would I be nervous? It's just a wedding. My second wedding. To the same man. What could be strange about that? You're talking to yourself again. I know, it's my charm. It's weird. That too. Noah smiled. The same smile she had learned to love over the past months. The smile that used to be rare and now appeared several times a day. He's more nervous than you, Noah said, nodding toward where Ethan was waiting, near the water. Sophia looked. Ethan Walker, the billionaire who had already faced furious boards of directors, aggressive investors, and the entire Los Angeles media, was visibly sweating. Is he shaking? Sophia asked. I think so. He dropped the ring twice while you were getting ready. Twice? The second time it almost went into the ocean. I had to run after it. Sophia laughed. A real laugh that started in her belly and rose to her eyes. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath. Let's do this. The ceremony was conducted by a justice of the peace that Noah had personally approved. The selection criteria was simple. Nobody boring, nobody who talks too much, and nobody who uses difficult words. The chosen justice was a 60-year-old gentleman named Harold, who had questionable sense of humor and a collection of ties with animal prints. Today he was wearing one with flamingos. We are gathered here, Harold began, then cleared his throat, to unite these 2 people who apparently were already united before, but decided to do it again because the first time was by contract and this one is for love. Am I right? Correct, Ethan said. More or less, Sophia said at the same time. Harold looked from one to the other. I'm going to pretend that was a unanimous yes. Noah laughed quietly. Ethan Walker, Harold continued. Do you have something to say to your bride? Vows, declarations, promises you'll probably break eventually? Ethan shot the justice a look that would normally make executives run for the hills. Harold didn't seem impressed. I do, Ethan said, turning to Sophia. He took a piece of paper from his pocket, unfolded it. His hands were shaking slightly. You wrote it down? Sophia asked, surprised. Noah said improvising would be disastrous. He was right. I know. Ethan looked at the paper. Then at her. Put the paper back in his pocket. Forget it, he said. I'm going to improvise anyway. Noah groaned. Sophia, Ethan began. When I met you, you were the most annoying person I had ever encountered. Wow. Romantic start, let me finish. Sorry. Continue insulting me. You talk to yourself, all the time, to objects, to reflections, to expensive cheeses you bit without permission. Technically, as your wife, I had implied permission. You weren't my wife yet when you bit the Roquefort. Details. Harold cleared his throat. May I continue? Ethan asked. Please, Sophia said, making a magnanimous gesture. You were annoying, loud, completely incapable of staying silent for more than 30 seconds, and the most honest person I've ever met. He paused. And at some point, in the middle of all that chaos, you became the person I can't live without anymore. Sophia felt her eyes burn. You taught me that money doesn't solve everything. That connection isn't weakness. That family isn't blood. It's choice. He looked at Noah. You gave me my son back, and you gave me a chance to be someone better. Ethan, I love you, he said, just like that. Not by contract, not by deal. I love you because you are you, and I want to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Sophia sniffled. That was really good, she said, her voice choked. Thank you. I rehearsed with Noah. 7 times, Noah confirmed. The first 6 were horrible. Thanks for the confidentiality, son. You're welcome. Harold turned to Sophia. Your turn. Try not to cry too much. My tie isn't waterproof. Sophia took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and began. Okay. Vows. I can do this. She looked at Ethan. When I met you, you were the coldest person I had ever encountered. Like literally. I thought you had been raised in an ice factory by robots. Very efficient robots, but heartless. Is that a compliment? Not yet, she smiled. You were impossible, rigid, emotionally constipated. Noah burst out laughing. But you were also more. More than you let people see. And for some reason, maybe insanity, maybe destiny, maybe that kiss you said was a mistake but clearly wasn't, I started to see beyond the armor. Ethan swallowed hard. You gave me a family, Sophia continued, looking at Noah. You gave me a purpose. You gave me a reason to stop running from difficult things. She looked back at Ethan. And you gave me you, who, despite all the flaws, and there are many, thank you, is the most loyal, most determined, and most secretly caring man I've ever met. Secretly caring sounds like a disease. Accept the compliment, Ethan. Accepting. Sophia held his hands. I love you. I choose you, today and every day, even when you're difficult, especially when you're difficult, because that's when you need someone the most. Ethan squeezed her hands. And I promise, Sophia added, to never bite expensive cheeses again without asking first. That means a lot to me. I know. Harold sniffled. That was beautiful, he said, clearly emotional. Okay. Rings. Where are the rings? Noah stepped forward, extending his hands with the 2 rings. I didn't drop either one this time, he announced proudly. Good job, Sophia said. Ethan took the smaller ring, slid it onto Sophia's finger. With this ring, he said, I promise to love you, respect you, and never again mention that you were a contract. Good. Because I would punch you. I know. Sophia took the other ring, placed it on Ethan's finger. With this ring, she said, I promise to love you, put up with you, and remind you that you're human every time you forget. Fair, Harold smiled. By the powers vested in me, by the state of California, and by this flamingo tie, I now pronounce you officially married. For real this time. You may kiss the bride. Ethan pulled her close. The kiss was soft, tender, completely different from that first cold kiss on the forehead at the fake wedding. Noah applauded. Finally, he shouted. That took forever. Sophia laughed against Ethan's lips. Your son is impatient, she said. Our son, Ethan corrected. And that word, our, made something bloom in Sophia's chest that she had no words to describe. Later, sitting on the sand, watching the stars appear one by one, Noah had already fallen asleep in Sophia's lap. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. For what? For not giving up. On me. On him. On us. Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. You made it pretty difficult at first, I know. But it was worth it. Was it? She looked at Noah, sleeping peacefully, looked at Ethan, more relaxed than she had ever seen him, looked at the sea, at the stars, at the ring shining on her finger. It was, she said. Every confusing and scary second was worth it. Ethan kissed her forehead. I love you, Sophia Walker. I love you too, Ethan Walker. She smiled. Even though you're still emotionally constipated sometimes. I'm working on it. I know. The silence that followed was different from all the silences they had ever shared. It wasn't tense. It wasn't icy. It was comfortable. Full. Sophia? Ethan said after a moment. You're talking to yourself again. She blinked. She hadn't noticed. What did I say? Something about sheep and how number 47 finally jumped the fence. Sophia laughed. Roberto overcame his issues. It's a big evolution. I'm happy for Roberto. Me too. Noah stirred in her lap, mumbling something about wanting pancakes for breakfast. Sophia looked at the family she had found in the most unlikely place. A family born from desperation, built in chaos, and now cemented in love. "Hey, Ethan?" "Yes? I think I'm pregnant." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Ethan choked. Surprise? And while the most controlled billionaire in Los Angeles tried to remember how to breathe, Sophia smiled at the stars. Life, she thought, was much better than any contract could promise. What did you think of Sophia and Ethan's story? Do you believe a contract marriage can turn into real love? Or was Sophia too brave to accept this craziness? Leave your opinion in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what rating would you give this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive more emotional stories like this one. See you next time.